It's 10 o'clock, and it can only mean one thing. Yes, that's right, it's the Maths Live event from St. Joseph's. So, welcome to Mr. Donlan's Maths Live event. And to start you off, we'll have a little bit of Rick. Here we go. Never gonna give you up. Never gonna let you down. Never gonna run around. Desert you. Never gonna make you cry. Never gonna say goodbye. Bum 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 bum. For so long. Okay, a big thank you to Rick Astley for Never Gonna Give You Up. Now, I played that because you might be thinking out there, you maths fans, that the only music I like is rock music, but that isn't true. I like all sorts of music, any genre. If it catches my ear, then I'm up for listening to a little bit of that. Of course, my favourite is rock music. But let's move on. If you've just joined us, you can see that I've left a little bit of a puzzle there. So how many triangles? Okay, can you see there? A little, there is an E in there. I'm not, but I could put SP there. You know, using the old school codes. Okay, so at first glance you might be thinking it's 1, 2, 3, 4 triangles, and what's he on about? But also we've got the big triangle around the outside. So the answer to that is there's 5 triangles in total. Okay, brilliant. Now, hopefully we're going to get a little bit more interactive. I've had some feedback about my live events, and those of you joining me this morning, please feel free to comment, say hello, and stuff like that, because it's a two-way event. It should be a two-way event, but at the moment it's very much a one-way event, me just talking. But it'd be nice to get a little bit more active and get some feedback from everybody and get people joined in. Okay, and also kind of boost this up for a little bit. All right, I'm aiming at 10 o'clock every day, so come and join me. It's only 20 minutes, and have a bit of a laugh while you're watching some maths. So please pass it around. I'd like to see a few more followers on here, and this maths is relevant for anyone at all who's doing GCSE, okay, and anyone who's about to take GCSE in the near future, from so any age, year 7 up to 10, 11, absolutely fine, any group. Okay, so let's just have a little recap. So the main thing to remember here is that what you're doing to one side you do to the other. So this was my very first sheet on equations 1 that we started with. So let's have a look at a couple of examples on here, and then we can move on. So let's just take number 6. All right, the idea on equations is that we find out what one value of the missing value is. Okay, so usually we've got question marks here, but we can also give them a letter as well, and they represent a number. So at the moment on this system we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 equals y add 2. Now the idea is that we add or remove items from either side of the equation system or the balancing system, so that we're left with the value of what one of these missing values is. So if we've got a 2 here, they're just in the way really, aren't they? They're not helping us one bit, so I'm going to take them away. Okay, so if I take them away, the scale is going to go straight down like that. Okay, so we need to balance it up again, and to balance it up we need to take 2 away from there. So if I do that, okay, these are gone, they're gone. So now I've got 6 equals to y add y, or we can write 2y's. Okay, so that's great, but we've got 2y's is 6. Now these y's are worth the same amount, so therefore if I simply halve the amount I've got here, which is there, ignore those because they're gone now, they're gone now. Okay, so if I halve each of the amounts left, I've got 3 representing one of those letters, and that's it, solved. And as I said, don't worry if you've got 3 equals y equals 3, it's exactly the same thing. You won't be marked down for that. The idea is, what is the value of one letter? And the value of one letter on this system is 3. Brilliant. So then we move to this worksheet. Okay, there's a whole range of questions here, but they're all quite good. So the good thing about this worksheet is that we're not just dealing with adds and times and that kind of thing. We're also dealing with divisions and times. So if I take you down to the one of the q divided by 8 is 6. So this is basically saying a number divided by 8 equals 6. What is that number? So the idea here is to reverse that process. So we've got a divide by 8, we want the reverse of a divide by 8. Sorry, it's a little bit blurry, but it does say q divided by 8. So the reverse of that divided by 8, so that we end up with 1, is going to be times by 8. Now the important thing to remember, that one key principle of all of this is that you do the same thing to both sides. So I've got to do a times by 8 exactly the same, and what happens is the times by 8 and the divide by 8 cancel. They actually go to 1, but that's called cancelling, meaning that we're left with only one letter, and then we need to times this by 8. Okay, 6 eighths of 48. So q equals 48. Now I've suggested we put that back in the equation. 48 divided by 8 is 6. So back to the beginning. Brilliant. So what we're going to look at now is an extension of what we've learnt already. And the learning objectives of this morning are very much about we've just had Lydia join us. Well done, Lydia. Good morning, Lydia. It's nice to see you again this morning. Okay, so great stuff. We're already interactive here and up and running. So going back to the main points of today, is we're going to be looking at brackets. Brackets. Now if you consider where bracket comes into this word bidmus, it's actually the first thing in the list that you have to sort out. So what happens with these equations now is that we actually combine the brackets part with an equation. And the idea is it's like doing different steps. So the first thing is that we've got to do the brackets bit, and then we build on that and we do what we've learned previously. So here's an example of a really easy question. So the first thing to consider is this bracket. Now the one important thing is that when we're multiplying brackets, we've got to multiply every bit inside that bracket by that number. Now I'd really encourage you to think about using a grid. You'll soon get used to these, and something like that is straightforward, but a grid really makes sure that you don't make any errors, and also with a grid, if you've got any negatives, it's much easier to see what's happening. So I'm going to just do that left hand side with a little bit of working out by the side here. Ignore the bidmus. So I've got an x plus 4 at the top, and I've got a 3 there. Okay, so I've made myself a little grid. Okay, and here the plus is connected with the 4. Alright, so those go together. So 3 times x is 3x, 3 times 4 is plus 12. There we go. So all of this is equivalent to 3x plus 12. So that's the first thing to do, to sort out those brackets. Okay. Now on the right hand side there's nothing really we can do with this just at the moment. Okay, so I'm going to keep that the same, and that's the first step. We've done the BIDMAS thing, we've got that sorted out, and that's a relatively straightforward equation from there. Okay, so how do we solve it? Alright, the first thing is that we need to figure out where the letters are going to go. Well, actually, there's more letters here. Okay, 3x on the left hand side, 1x on the right hand side. So it looks like it's going to be a little bit of a strange one, but it's probably going to involve minus numbers at the end. Okay, so let's have a little negative numbers. Let's have a little look. Okay, so we can either get rid of that 2 first or that x first. I'm going to go for the x because I want my letters there. Sort my letters out first, I think it'd be a good idea for this particular equation. So to do that, I've got an x there. Okay, I want all the x's on one side, so I'm going to take that away. Okay, so on this right hand side, remember left and right, we're not working through this system like an English essay or English book. We're going from the top down, so I'm going to do this bit first. Take away an x. Okay, I'm just left with 2. And the important thing here is to do the same thing to the other side. So I've got a 3x, I'm going to take away an x, so I'm left with a 2x. Now my numbers here stay the same at 12, and I'm left with that. So already we're starting to look pretty tidy. It's getting a lot easier. We can see a lot more what's going on. Okay, now not to panic, because some of you might be thinking, whoa, look at that again, what's going on there? Alright, it's not matching. But again, stick to the system. We need our x's, our letters on one side, our numbers on the other. So this plus 12 is no good here. We don't want that there. So what we need to do is remove the plus 12. So we need to do a take away, not take away x, that's a mistake. Take away 12, it's the reverse of that plus 12. So I'm going to sort the left hand side out first. I'm left with 2x. Take away 12 on both sides, of course. Take away 12. So that'll mean that's nothing. And then I need an equals. And then I do a 2, and I've got to do the same thing here. Take away 12. Remember not to panic, just a few negative numbers. 2 minus 12, 2 take away 12, something we do in year 7. So that's going to be negative 10. Okay, and we're really close to finishing this off now. So 2x's is negative 10. Alright, now this stage it's just a matter of finding 1x. So I've got 2x's, 2 times. The reverse function of a 2 times is going to be a divide by 2. And you just be careful with your times and divide by equations. Remember that if I did divide by 2 and it had more to it, I'd have to do every little bit with divides and times. So that's a good idea to leave the times and divides right until the end. So divide by 2, okay, and again same thing on the other side. Okay, 10 divided by 2 is 5, and of course it's negatives, so we're left with an x equals minus 5. A little bit of an underline to finish off, and that is as good as a McDonald's Happy Meal on a Friday afternoon. Actually, they're a bit small, aren't they? It's as good as 2 McDonald's Happy Meals on a Friday afternoon. All to myself with the toys. Fantastico. Alright, so here's a little bit of a sideline. Just have a little commercial break. Doodle-doodle-doo. Here we go. So we've got this time I want us to have a look at a really quite a tricky little bit of a brackets. Okay, so that's what we look like. 4x into brackets 2x minus 3yz. Alright, so the thing is here is not to panic. Not to panic at all, and to think about what's going on. Okay, so the system I've said is produce a grid. So this bracket is a 2x, and a minus 3yz. Outside the bracket is a 4x, that can go there. So already transferring that system into this little grid is helping us. Now, this is a bit of a sideline, it's just going over some revision. So we probably wouldn't have that situation in an equation that we're going to be talking about now, but we could have it in a higher level GCSE exam with an equation. So let's not rule this out yet. So we've got hey, Mr. Tate. Whoa, good to see you, Mr. Tate. Nice to see you on here. Okay, so just going over this little grid here. 4 2s are 8. X squared. The x and the x make an x squared. And then we've got a 4 3s are 12. And then it doesn't matter if the letters are in order alphabetically or not, but usually it's a good idea to keep them in alphabetical order if you can. You won't get marked down for it, it just makes it a little bit neater. So we've got a 4x, 4 3s are 12, x times y times z. Okay, so you can see this little grid system is makes things a little bit easier. Okay, let's get back to the work because that was a little bit of a sideline. So where's my other sheet that we're working on? Alright, so let's have a little look. Here we go. So this is the sheet that we're working on. So I want you to just to take you down to this question here is a pretty good one to do. Okay, so I'll write it out in full because it's nice and it's a bit small there, and we'll just run through that one quickly and then we're looking good. So what does it look like? We've got a 3 into 2x minus 1 equals 11. There we go. So as I said, the first thing to do is sort out these brackets. So you might want to do some working out on the side. It's probably easy enough to do in one hit. Some teachers just get you to draw these little arcs, but I'm into these grids now. So 2x negative 1. Remember what I said about negatives? Negative is a noun, not minus. Okay, we all make that mistake, but try and get it right. So 3 times 2 is a 6. X. 3 times negative 1 is once 3 is 3 and minus 3 there. Okay, so all of this side, this left hand side, looks like that. 6x minus 3 equals 11. Again, remember my little top tip of trying to keep this equals in line. Just looks a bit neater. Again, you wouldn't get marked down if the equals was over here, but it's easier to see what's going on. So the next thing is let's looking at this is we need to sort this minus 3 out. That's no good there. Okay, so I'm just going to give you a little moment to see if you can tell me what do I do with that minus 3 in order for it to disappear, leaving just x's over here. Okay, see, type me a message. Okay, if you're on the on live now, just message me in, tell me what I do with that minus 3 so that it disappears. Okay, I'm going to give you 5 seconds. Okay, I've got some replies there. So we've got add 3, we've got plus 3, we've got add 3 onto both sides. All these things are correct, so that's brilliant. And thank you to Lydia for the add 3 comment. She was first up, so when we get back to school there'll be a packet of Haribos for you, Lydia. Okay, so we add 3 on both sides. Brilliant. Alright, don't forget on both sides. I kind of put them in brackets if you like. So that means the negative 3 and the plus 3 cancel each other out, so nothing left there. And then 11 add 3 is 14. Just ignore that, it's a splodge. Okay, so this isn't going to work out perfectly, but all we need to do now is get x on its own. Okay, and we've got a 6 times there, so we need to do a divide by 6 on both sides. Divide by 6 on both sides. So all we need to do is do 14 divide out of 6, And that is good enough to leave as my final answer, 14 over 6. Okay, look in the question carefully. If the question's asking for a mixed number or a different format, think about manipulating it then. But if it doesn't say anything, we can just leave it as it is. Okay, but let's just put it into a mixed number to finish off. So this means that I've got 14 sixths. Well, if you take 6 sixths at a time, it makes a whole. So you've got 1 6 is 6 sixths, that's 1 whole. 2 6s are 12, that's 2 wholes. And 13, and we've got 2 left. And 2 out of 6, of course, makes, if we halve both the numerator and denominator, that makes a third. Okay? But look again, it might say mixed number, all right, which you can leave it there, or it might say mixed number in its simplest term, in which case you need to write it like that. But again, if it doesn't say anything and just solve this equation, best to leave it like that, because if you start messing around with the fraction and you don't need to and you get this bit wrong, you're going to lose marks further up. So I would definitely say that's where to leave it unless the question says otherwise. Okay, that's it for me. So my next podcast live event will be on Monday, and I will be posting up the topic. It'll be something like equations, but I hope you enjoyed this week, and lots of other events on today. Have a look at the Facebook pages. I know there's some prayers from the RE department. There's also some English events. Mr. Griffiths will be on there after me, so let's keep it going, folks. And I'm going to leave you with Rick to finish off. Okay, here we go. See you next time.